tilt your head towards the screen here. And so we go through these numbers again together, and I'm going to go through the 19th Spehnic prime, and you talk a number, Spehnic number. And so we discussed this morning, and 195 is the numerical value of these 5 letters. The longest set of initials in chapter 19, Surah 19. Okay? And if you multiply 19 by 195, you're going to get this number, 3705. Okay? And 3705 is a composite, obviously, because it was a multiple of 2 numbers. And it happens to be the 3187th composite. 3187th verse from the beginning of the Quran is 2730. You remember what 2730 is? 2730 says that she has received a letter, an honorable letter from Solomon. Okay? And it is in the name of God, the All Gracious, the All Merciful. That's where that missing Bismillah in chapter 9 has been compensated. We know why. Now we know why. Okay? Because of this number, which is the sum of the initials in chapter 19. Okay? Again, God stresses on that fact over this 19. This is how you generate it. That's what He tells you. Okay? So, now, this is not on the web. This last bullet that I showed here is not on the web. And so, what is 3187? First thing you should notice that this is a very interesting number because 7 plus 8 is 15, 16, 19. It adds up to 19. So he's trying to tell you that there is something special about this. Please look at it deeper. That's what he's saying. Okay? And that is amazing. Okay, so I'm going to scroll it down. And so it's a twin Gaussian prime. What a Gaussian prime is that if you subtract 3 from this number, you're going to get 3184. All of these such numbers are called Gaussian prime. That means that this is a very advanced math. Okay, this is complex algebra. These things cannot be factored out in the complex plane either. 19 cannot be factored out in the complex plane. 17 can. 17, I call it Gaussian composite, because it's 4 minus I times 4 plus I. And if you multiply it correctly, and you know a little bit of complex algebra, you come up with 17. Because I times I is minus 1. There is a minus that comes from that identity. Minus times minus is plus 1. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 1 is 17. Okay? So here, twin Gaussian prime is there are 2 numbers that are different by 4, but they both have this kind of property. Okay? So now we scroll down a little bit. Remember now, this is chapter 19 now. We started with 195, which is the 19th Spehnic prime, and this has to do with chapter 19. Okay? All right. It happens that it constitutes the 47 twin Gaussian prime pair. What is chapter 47? Okay, there we go. Okay? So he tells us, God is telling us a story here. Scroll down just a little bit more. 3187 is the 92nd individual twin Gaussian prime. Chapter 47 is called Muhammad, as we just said. Okay? And 92 is the numerical value of the word Muhammad. Okay? So again, it tells you the relation between chapter 19 and who this guy was. He tells you what his name was. He tells you what chapter it was that he was mentioned. Okay? Or he's named after. All this information comes from pure mathematics. As I said, I cannot refer you to the web because these numbers you see it. If I go to Anyway, so if I go to 20 Gaussian out, okay, and there it is. See that? 47, 31, 87. We just discussed that. And then you come here, it's 92. See? 92 lines of this. This is pure number theory. There is nothing fudging here. Okay? This is not quantum mechanics. Okay? Then you have some kind of probability of something happens. Okay? So I don't know what the electron is until I measure it. Really? So what is the theory? So you're telling me that probabilistically it could be anywhere in the universe. But once I measure it, then I know where it is. This is telling you why it's supposed to be like that. Thank you. Okay. And now what is it tell you? 3187 tells you that that second Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in chapter 27 was because of this. Because the guy who delivered that, and what it's supposed to be, and who this guy was. Okay. This is the story that this mathematics is telling us. And this mathematics is beyond our capability. We cannot even fathom it. Okay. As I said, there is no algebraic equation that can describe this. There are approximations, don't get me wrong, but approximations, no replacement for the truth. The truth is telling there is one, and then one to correspond to that, and that's it. There is no other one. Okay. So, all of these different domains that we have looked at, Gaussian primes, twin Gaussian primes, individual, lonely Gaussian primes, all kinds of things that we do and we look at, looks for this mosaic that God has created, and only God knows where they are. And no one else. So he shows us different facets of it. And by God's grace, we are actually privileged to see this. And these are numbers, okay? So everybody is using not big numbers. You see that? Not big numbers. Okay? So we have to ask this question out of ourselves, okay? So what is it telling us? Telling us that chapter 19, there was a prophet that came in there, and he says in chapter 19 that he was a baby. Okay. So they asked Mary, they said, prove to us this, you were a whore and this and that, the others. Okay. And now she's taken a vow of silence, points to the baby. How could the baby talk? Okay. And the baby talks. Okay. And he said, I'm a prophet of God. Appoint me a prophet. So that prophet, until Muhammad, there were no prophets. That's what he's telling us. Okay? And if you look at that chapter, the 114th verse in the order of revelation that contains the word Allah is actually in that chapter. Okay? And that verse says, قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ. He says that I am a servant of Allah. Okay? And that what happens to the 114th. Okay? So what is he doing? He's actually telling us about this, about the Quran. Somehow those prophets, God says, we have given them wisdom and knowledge. So what does he mean? Okay? They had some inspiration that something like this is going to come. But they will be the witness on the day of judgment. Okay? These are called Gaussian. Gauss is going to be a witness, and he's going to say this is correct. Okay? Because he invented this stuff. So, you are in good company. You are in company, people who possess knowledge. That's what God says. Remember chapter 14, chapter 13, verse 43? You are not God's messenger. Remember those arrogant people? End of his mission, still tormenting the man. Okay? You're not God's messenger. So ask those who possess the knowledge of the scripture. That's what he says. Okay? Means you don't have it. You don't have that knowledge. God has forbidden you from gaining that knowledge. So he would not give it to anybody unless you have the sincerity at heart. And that's what God says. Okay? You have that sincerity that God has given those people because their heart was willing to accept this message. They were not arrogant. So this is the story that I had to tell through these numbers for you today. Okay? So I told you that I'm going to show you that it's not just 4738. It's even his name, what his name was. So we just saw it in front of us. How the numbers are lining up. Okay? It's just like the stars in heaven, so to speak. Okay? Remember, I swore by the position of the stars. So anyway, so let me go ahead and stop here and we'll